Welcome to another live episode of the Eric Crocker Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, and we're talking all things San Francisco 49ers, including Brock Purdy. He continues to prove doubters wrong, including the Eric Crocker type doubters, because there's levels to the doubters, and he's proving every one of those doubters wrong. We're going to discuss that. Steve Wilks, the defense, is it the scheme? Is it personnel? What the hell is going on? All right, with the defense and why so many kind of up and downs right now. And I want to find out, everybody in the chat, like, where's your confidence meter on a scale of 1 to 10 on the 49ers winning the Super Bowl? All right, got a lot of time to sit and think about it before the Super Bowl comes. A lot of people going to Vegas. I wish I was. I am going to Vegas this weekend, but for something else. All right, but anyways, your confidence meter on a scale of 1 to 10 and the biggest hurdle for the San Francisco 49ers. All right, we're going to discuss all that and more, but of course, it's Wednesday, so I wanted to say thank you for joining me to the lovely Coach Dezi. Good morning, Coach Dezi.
Hey, it's still victory week, so I'm still in celebration.
I know. So, can you celebrate longer when you don't have a game coming up? Because usually they have like kind of like that 24-hour rules. Like you win a game, you can kind of celebrate it for about 24 hours and be happy about it, and then it's on to the next game. But when you have a bye week like this with 49ers, and they've earned all these bye weeks, do you, I don't know, kind of celebrate a little bit longer? Do you enjoy that win a little bit longer than you normally would?
Listen, I am sopping it all up. I live in a house with a Ravens fan. They took an L, and it hasn't, my marriage is saved. I don't have to worry about a 49er Ravens Super Bowl. There's like balance back in the house, but my entire feed is from Baltimore. I was raised in Baltimore. So, I left all of them alone. I didn't say a darn thing about anything. All I did was just post an NFC Championship picture when our game was done. So it was all good. But yes, to answer your question, damn right, we are going to celebrate this. This is something that we've all been looking forward to. Wink predicted. We're celebrating this to the fullest, all the way up until that Super Bowl. I'm here.
Oh, yeah, it's been exciting. And just what was it, just the roller coaster of emotions in that game? I've seen on Instagram, it's like Lions fans, right? And like his girlfriend or wife or whatever is like recording him, and he's so excited. They're up. He's celebrating. He's talking about ride the pony. He's doing all this stuff. He is so excited. And then he even says at halftime, like, we have a history of kind of losing. So, I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself, but I am feeling really good. And, but you never know, blah, blah. So he was kind of cautiously optimistic. And then it happened. And she shows him, and he's just sitting there. And the legs, his foot starts twitching. Because, and that must have been the 49ers starting to come back. And then you see him with his head in his head in the hands. Then you see him on the ground, and he just can't believe it. So, a roller coaster of emotions for the wrong side of things with the Lions fans. But as a San Francisco 49er fan, what was that like? I know that first half you were probably kind of really waking up everybody in the neighborhood.
Well, so here's the deal. So right beforehand, I was conflicted. I'm like, I was invited to a 49er watch party. Shout out to Beta Bay. I decided to go. Mom and I went. We were like, let's go early. Let's have some appetizers. Let's feel it out. If we're feeling the vibe, we'll stay there. If not, we'll come home. Well, we show up and it's just Ravens flock everywhere. And I'm like, wait, I just left a Ravens fan at home only to come and be surrounded by a bunch of Ravens fans. So already I was kind of tense because I was like, I don't like the vibe of this. Sat down. It took forever. We got a seat. We ordered some food. And my mom she can't hear great, especially in crowded places. And so we weren't sure that we could hear the game on the TV. So she was kind of getting antsy. Last minute, we're like, let's go home. We're going to go back home and watch this game. So I'm literally driving 20 minutes home while the game is starting. So it's like I'm listening to this and the Jake Moody missed field goal happens. And then I'm screaming in the car. My mom's like, okay, we're almost there. Let's just get home.
I was going to say, I know your mom heard that.
Yes, she did. We get home and it was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I'm seeing. And I just felt unsettled. So I think that's exactly how they felt on the field, was unsettled. Like, again, the bad tackling showed back up. There were some things, just our ugly imperfections were kind of on display, and it was driving me insane. I actually joined you had a Twitter space that came. I was surprised. I joined that quickly at halftime just to be like, okay, I need to be with my faithful. And some of the stuff I was hearing, I was like, no, I got to get off of this. Like I get it. We're in the heat of it, but like we're also called the faithful. And I was seeing, on Twitter, people calling for people's jobs and this person, this and that. And it was like we were just imploding as a fan base. And I was like, no. So I tweeted out right before the second half, I said, listen, we're a strong second half team that makes really smart adjustments. And then when the second half started, I was like, boom, that's where we are. That's what's up. And things started clicking. And to be fair, we did capitalize on the mistakes of the Lions. And I forget who said it, but they were like, sometimes these games come down to not who's the better player, but who plays a less imperfect game, right? Who doesn't make the mistakes. And that's kind of what this game came down to, which I am happy for. And just a side note, my mom happens to have a tattoo of a ladybug.
Really? Well, I think the ladybug definitely helped us in the second half. There were people in those spaces, and they were like, the emotions were up and down. And I don't know if you heard my tone. I was very calm. I was very cool. And my whole thought is just from the way, like, if I were coaching the team, it's get a score coming out of half. Like, you get the ball first, get a score. And if you do that, then you should be fine. Like, that was just kind of how I saw it. So they came out and they got a score. And I'm like, all right, it's a 2-score game. Let's go. I was not worried again until the very first play from the Detroit Lions. Play action pass to hit Laporta down the sideline. And I'm like, okay. Then they ran the ball. But they went for it on fourth down and got stuffed. And that's when I said, I think somebody's in trouble. The 49ers went down the field again. Brandon Ayuk made the amazing catch off the guy's face mask. And we'll call that the ladybug catch. And from there, I said, Niners going to win this game. Like, they're just going to win it. Then they fumbled the next kickoff or the first play after the kickoff. Awesome stuff. So a crazy amount of emotions, but the 49ers won. And I think a big part of it, well, actually, before we get into that, I would definitely want to thank everybody in the chat right now. Appreciate all of you guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Shout out to the everydayers that listen to Locked On 49ers. You guys have made us one of the top sports podcasts in the world right now on Apple. Matter of fact, it was top 60 as a podcast. And then we had a couple of top 100 episodes, actually a couple of top 75 episodes. So shout out to everybody who listens to Locked On 49ers. We appreciate you guys. Yeah, man, you guys got our numbers way, way, way up. All right, so and I say way up. Our numbers are usually up, but obviously big moment, so they're even more up than they usually are. So shout out to all the everydayers.
And you've arrived when you're getting some shout outs from Uncle Sherm.
Yeah, Sherm. I DM Sherm, man. And Sherm and I, we've been talking, and it's not like he's like my buddy or anything like that, but we've kind of been conversing here and there, probably since he was a San Francisco 49er. And I did DM him and try to get him on Locked On. It's tough because of his stuff with the volume. So it's probably not gonna happen. All right, but hey, I tried, y'all. I tried faithful. I tried to get his perception on 49ers, just Brock Purdy, his thoughts on Brock, his thoughts on Kansas City Chiefs, and playing against them in the Super Bowl. What was that like? And then now seeing this this version of the Chiefs and what they are. So would have been great to get my guy Sherman on there. I wasn't able to, but that won't stop us from talking about Brock Purdy. All right, I came on here and said that Brock Purdy proves doubters wrong, right? He continues to prove the doubters wrong. And I included me in that doubting category, but maybe for different reasons than other people. I'm not someone out there saying this guy isn't good. I'm not someone out there saying this guy can't play. I have pushed back on the elite title, right? Like, just like, oh, is he Josh Allen? Is he, Lamar? Is he Patrick Mahomes? And people are like, oh, well, who's comparing him to those guys? There are some people that are, but it's like, I don't know if I don't think he's that, but whatever he is, like, he's good for the 49ers, etc. But I feel like every game he goes out there, he proves every type of doubter wrong. Whether it's the doubter that says, oh, he only does this because of his weapons, and maybe those are people that just don't really watch him. But it's like, oh, he only does it because of his weapons, and if he didn't have these guys, he wouldn't be good. Or it might be the Eric Crocker doubter that's like, I think he's really good. I think he's solid. I think he works for the 49ers. I'm not sure if he's in the league, does some stuff that's like, well, what else do you want from him? Like, what else do you want him to do? So you've really been big as well as Terry Dome. I don't know if Terry Dome's in the chat right now. 187. He's been doing the Purdy dog probably since Purdy was at Iowa State. So he's been a big fan of Purdy. There have been a lot of big Purdy fans, but there are also a lot of people that just continue to doubt him. And when you watch this performance like this, what he did in the second half, they're still critiquing it somehow. But what do you think they see? Like, why do you think they keep pushing back on it? What more do people want to see from Brock Purdy?
They want him to grow about 5 more inches, gain about 30 more pounds, and that's what they want. It's like, do you want someone who's 5'2", who's cute, doesn't have the curves, or do you want the statuesque blonde that's, got the look, right? Like, we know what most people are going to go for, right? Is that everything? No. Guess what? You might get taken care of better by the 5'1", shorty that's got, a big heart. So there's all types of quarterbacks out there. You basically want the one that wins in whatever package that looks like for whatever type of offense you have. And I have loved this kid since the moment he stepped on the field. There just seemed to be something different on this guy. And I have just been a big fan and supporter of all he does. And what I said in the beginning was, the kid knows who he is. So when you know and you're rooted in who you are, you're able to block out so many distractions that happen to so many other people, not just athletes. But he knows exactly who he is. He knows his strengths. He knows his shortcomings, and he doesn't even make excuses about it. And I think, honestly, that's part of the reason why he gets so much hate. He's the goody two-shoes. People don't like goody two-shoes, right? They are, oh, he's too good for this, that, and the other. And I think that's part of why there's so much hate for him. And yes, his faith is such a benefit. But again, for people who don't want to hear about that, much like the Taylor Swift stuff, they don't want to hear about Taylor Swift. She's a goody two-shoe as well. That's a whole different rabbit hole because I have different opinions on it. But I think that's part of it. I think it's not so much what's actionable and what's on the tape. It's all this other stuff that he doesn't measure up to what he's supposed to look like, what he's supposed to be as a quarterback. And then ultimately these other things that just people are like, he can't be good because he looks like he's 12 or something. These really bad situations and bad takes on him.
Eddie here says, do you factor in processing and decision making when deciding if Brock Purdy is elite? And maybe that's it. I feel like most people do. I think he processes well. I don't know if they like Kirk Cousins, right? Like I think for the most part, Kirk Cousins is an elite processor and decision maker. Now, that's not to say Kirk Cousins hasn't thrown any bad interceptions. That's not to say that Brock hasn't thrown any bad interceptions, right? But for the majority of the games that they play, I would say that Kirk Cousins, and we watched him against the 49ers just eat the 49ers alive, he comes off to me as an elite processor and an elite decision maker more times than not. I'd say with Brock, the thing that makes him different than Kirk, and I think Kirk can move a little better than people give him credit for, but he can't move like Brock. And we saw him rip off those runs when the 49ers needed it most. So you talk about just kind of elite skill sets. I think the thing that might separate the two, right? It's not just the processing or decision making. I think it's the grittiness, like the willingness to grind it out. We've seen that now in 2 straight games, and I've been looking for it. I've been wanting that, and I didn't quite see it from games this year, right? Like I didn't quite see it in the Vikings game, even though he was concussed. So maybe he did try to grind it out, and it was just as much as he can go. It was a little weird in some of the other games, but when you saw what he did this time, to where I'm gonna make sure we don't lose. To me, like that's the thing. That's the thing that you have to have. Like I got to figure out a way, no matter how good or how bad this is going. And he's done a terrific job with that, especially over the last couple weeks. We got Black Suburban in here, and he says Debo has me heated with his blocking effort, caused 2 touchdowns, Brock's red zone run, and CMC catching and run up the left side. and they kill themselves blocking for him. And the crazy thing is with Debo, Ayuk, really any 49er receiver, if you're on the field, they typically block well. At times, sometimes if the angle changes, you don't want him to end up doing something to where they get a flag or something like that. But typically, the effort is there. I saw a screen be thrown to Debo Samuel from Brock Purdy, and the play got blown up because Brandon Ayuk missed the block. But when he missed the block, I didn't think he missed it because just a lack of effort. It was like, okay, I'm coming out to get to the spot, and the guy kind of squeezed by, and I thought it was a good play by the defender. And you don't want to grab him and throw him to the ground because then you get a flag. And we've seen that happen as well. So typically with 49er players, and it does suck to see them if they miss a block. I think the effort is there. Like if you watch the receiver from George Pickens from the Steelers, there are some plays where zero effort to block. That typically is not the 49ers receivers. Like you want to see bad effort. So I think that's something where you don't want to get a penalty. I did want to bring up one thing, and I don't know if we're going to be able to hear it. We'll see. You let me know if we can hear it.
Okay.
A fan, a listener of Locked On 49ers went back and listened to Peacock and I scouting report on Brock Purdy. And I cut apart at the very beginning when I was talking about, kind of what I saw from him. And it's interesting because at this time, very low expectations. Right? It's not like we thought, oh, Brock Purdy's going to be amazing. Matter of fact, this was prior to Trey Lance really taking over full time as a starter, right? Like I hadn't even had that full offseason as a starter. So we don't even think that, oh, Brock is going to come in and he's going to make some shake and he's going to be a guy, right? Like I also in there mentioned that the 49ers had the big guy, Nate Sudfeld. I should know he's from 209. All right. But they had Nate Sudfeld and, what will the 49ers do? Like, are they going to keep Nate Sudfeld? What are they going to do with Brock Purdy? But you can listen to just my initial thoughts when I watch Brock Purdy's film. Let's see if we can get this going. All right. You guys let me know if you can hear it. Get Brock Purdy. And it's like, well, where does you get Brock Purdy? And it's like, well, where does he fit in to this whole dynamic? And, you talked about the feet and everything like that. But I'd say, you get Brock Purdy. And it's like, well, where does he fit in to this whole dynamic? And, you talked about the feet and everything like that. But I'd say right away, the thing that jumped out to me about his game is probably him when he plays in rhythm. Like that's his strong point, right? If you want to look at like what's a legit strength of his, is playing in rhythm with anticipation. And those are some of the things that Kyle Shanahan, when you ask him, what is he looking for in a quarterback, that's what he covets, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be the biggest of arms, but a guy that can kind of stand in there and execute a play call exactly how Kyle Shanahan has it drawn up and thought up in his head and get that ball out right now and make those throws. I think that was the thing that jumped out to me immediately about Brock Purdy's game. All right. Thoughts on that? Was I on a little bit? Was I a little close with what I thought Kyle might like in Brock Purdy?
You nailed it, man. And the cool thing is the kid is still so young. He's 24. It was interesting. You're comparing him to Vikings quarterback.
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins. Thank you. You were comparing him to him, and I'm like, yeah. And how long has Kirk Cousins been in the league? Like, this is what we keep doing. We keep comparing him to these people that have had years in the NFL, right? So the fact that this kid is performing at this level, at this point in his career is phenomenal. And we as 49er fans are going to have a luxury of being able to watch him for several years to come.
Yeah, and when I initially was titling this, I just ended up putting Brock Purdy continues to prove doubters wrong. But at first it was like Brock Purdy continues to be wise beyond his years or mature beyond his years, or something along the lines of that, because it is a very small sample size in the sense of just how much he has played. And more times than not, it typically takes longer for quarterbacks to kind of come into their own. And he's kind of come out and done it right away. Now, I'm not going to ask that question, but yeah, he's done it right away. So it has been very awesome watching him. Again, he continues to prove any kind and all doubters wrong. So shout out to Brock Purdy. He's doing a great thing. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat right now. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And man, I'm really excited. Everywhere I go right now, everybody's like, go Niners. I'm wearing my 49ers stuff. They're excited. I'm at the gym. Somebody pointed at me just now. He was like, let's go. I had a 49er hoodie on. So Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. We
By
got
the way,
Damon in the chat. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, by the way, here in Florida, I went to our big grocery store is Publix, and I went into Publix this morning to grab something, and there's nothing but 49er balloons everywhere. And I'm like, wait, am I in Florida or am I in California? There was not a Chiefs balloon anywhere. It was all 49ers. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, I like that. Black Suburban says, Coach Des, will you marry me? She's already married. She's taken. So um, she's married. Damon in chat says, let's effing go. Purdy does all the thongs elite. I knew what you meant. Things, all the things elite quarterbacks do. His only real limitation is when he is wrong. He doesn't have the physical ability to make it right anyway. Okay, so Damon, this is a great point, and Peacock kind of talked about this a little bit on Locked On 49ers, where he was saying, from a physical standpoint, he's really towing that line, right? Like he's right there. And if something is slightly off, he can dip below the line. And when you draft guys high, so that if something does go wrong, they don't dip below the line of what you need them to be able to do from a physical standpoint. So I do think that Damon is right when he says this, right? Like just, sometimes, and not every guy, but having bigger hands, being able, because all these things factor into your draft stock. People think it's just height. Like Kyler Murray went number 1 overall. So it's not just height, but being able to throw in any type of weather, being able to throw a football in any type of weather, like those things just kind of continue to kind of bump you up, right? You're talking about just things that you're checking off. I think some people want you to be really big, but we've seen a lot of balls being batted down from Brock Purdy. So this is another thing when we start talking about dipping below line. Now it's height, right? So one, hand size, not great, even though it's the same as Mahomes, and somehow he throws perfectly fine in bad weather. But hand size, he doesn't have the biggest hands. So then throwing in inclement weather has been an issue for him. Like that's one thing. Arm strength, being able to throw in any type of weather. If it gets windy, if it's wet out there, what happens? That can get him to tip, toe between that line. Height. Some guys can be short and play well, and most of the time we've seen Brock Purdy, who's barely 6'1", and not even an official 6'1". How many passes have we seen get batted down over the last 2 weeks? And Peacock noted something very interesting. He went back and rewatched, and he's watching Purdy, and he says teams are, because 49ers play timing, rhythm, all that, anticipation, great stuff. Teams will stop their rush and kind of get their hands up, and he missed some throws in that Packer game, like just flat out missed. And it looks like he just threw a bad ball, but really it was him trying to maneuver around the tall hands and try to find a window and kind of throw it out there, and it's far away from a guy, and people are like, what the heck, that's a terrible throw. But it's like, no, he's just a little smarter. So there are these things that when you talk about his only real limitation is when he's wrong and all that, there's some things that can hinder his ability to continue to be the guy that we usually see him be. And that's why you usually draft guys higher, so that those type of things aren't a problem. But with Brock, they may always, like, he may never be able to throw well in inclement weather. He may always get balls batted down. The thing that you have to live with is, outside of those things that won't occur most of the year, he plays at a very, very high level with everything that he does well. So I like that you brought that up, Damon, because that was something we discussed a little bit on Locked On. And again, not in a bad way, not in a way that, oh, this is why he'll never be elite, but just some things to notice when you're watching. If something doesn't go right with him, typically it's because of some of these things, those things I just mentioned, that may pop up.
Yeah. Well, luckily he's 50% now in rain. So who knows with a larger sample size what that'll look like. And again, he's still 24 with only a year and a half of starting QB experience. Where is he going to be? Is he going to be able to even learn how to maneuver around these arms that come up? I mean, there's still a learning curve there, and it's just going to be interesting to see where the ceiling ends up being for this young quarterback.
Damien also says it's wild. Everyone skips over the fact that Brock is the best in the league in every situation, including deep and outside the numbers. He has been awesome in that, and he's been. I have noticed them do this a little bit more. You definitely did not see it with Jimmy Garoppolo. Very, very, very rare. But I'm starting to see a little bit more deeper outbreaking routes, and Brock is throwing that with timing. It might just be one of those things where it's like, Brandon, now you just win on this out, and I'm gonna put it out there, and I'm gonna throw with timing and rhythm, and we're gonna get that ball out to you, and it's gonna be great. And I think he does a terrific job of that. Now, if you want to talk about elite skill sets and traits and things like that, uh, Purdy cannot be late on it because when you don't have the bigger arm and you don't have quite maybe the velocity of some of the other guys, let's say, um, Trey Lance. Trey Lance might be able to like wait. Oh, is he open? Boom! I can fire it in there just because my arm is bigger. But then, well, he does everything else like bad. You know what I'm saying? But then you get Brock, who does everything right for the most part, and that throw is like, well, I can get it there. I just have to throw it with more anticipation. The ball has to be out before he even gets his head around, and that's not a knock. Like that's awesome. It's just sometimes, and I watched it in this game. There was one he kind of threw at Ayuk's feet. So he threw like two of those out routes, and one of them was it just looked way off. But I think a lot of that has to do with like he just has to be right with whatever the other guy is. And tip again, I know I'm gonna get comments. That's most quarterbacks. That is most quarterbacks, but some guys again they can right there wrong by having an elite trait. And Brock's elite superpower is the processing part, is throwing with anticipation. He just has to be right. So yeah, great stuff. Great stuff there. Here we go. Moving along. Steve Wilkes. The defense weakness is a scheme, is a personnel. And, I watched the game and I know that people are, the scheme. But the thing that scared me the most is, and this happened to me, I talked about it. I coach high school football at Edison in Stockton, varsity. I coach varsity DBs. My defensive coordinator is Desmond Bishop. He played a bunch of years in the NFL. Played with the Niners for a little bit too. Des did. All right, but we played Central Catholic and private school. I hate the public school, private school. Then you got to go play these guys. They recruit all these dudes, but they got monsters on their offensive line and defensive line. And athlete for athlete, they couldn't really touch us. I mean, we're out there. We got all the athletes, right? Stockton, California. But the trenches, that's where we don't have it as well. So there was nothing that Desmond Bishop could do to really stop the run. We tried everything. Load the box, overload one side, send run blitzes, get guys in there. And no matter what we did, we're getting pushed back 5 yards, 7 yards. I mean, the running back, every single carry, 7 yards, 8 yards, 7 yards, 9 yards, 14 yards, 7 yards. I'm like, oh my God, this is the most helpless feeling I have. It didn't have anything to do with our scheme. We just quite didn't have the personnel to consistently stop it. Did we have a couple stops? Of course. We had one that tried to go for a 2-point conversion, and we stuffed it. So it's not like it didn't work every time, but most of the time, we didn't quite have the personnel. So when I look at Wilkes, and we could talk about trying to do this and do that and whatnot, but Wilkes got punched in the effing mouth, and not him personally, the defensive line. I was watching the 49ers D-line get moved off the ball 5 yards, 4 yards, just nobody touching Montgomery, and then him doing his thing and picking up yards. And I'm like, I get we want to put it on the scheme, but man, I don't know what's going on with this defensive line, but they are getting pushed back. And then the moment you try to overcompensate on, well, they're getting pushed back. This happened to us. All right, I'll give you another example. We're getting gashed in the run game. So now it's like, okay, we're going to overload the box. And then, boom, they throw the ball, and my corner is out there in too much space with a two-way going receiver. They score a touchdown because we're trying to overcompensate on an area that is weak. And what happened in this game? You want to try to overcompensate because you're getting pushed back in the middle. So then they ran that play that the Packers ran where they pinned down the guy. They do the toss, pin down the edge with a receiver, and now you have space on the edge. It felt helpless for me watching, and I bet Wilkes felt helpless as well. That's just my thoughts on it because I kind of was felt like that when I just watched my team in the second round of the playoffs, my high school team. What were your thoughts on watching it? Did you think Wilkes needs to change something up or do something different, or what were your thoughts on that?
I thought it was effort. I thought it was like just what we've been seeing, like missed tackles and we're getting schooled and we're getting bullied, and it's like that's not been our signature over the years. We've had this gritty, just hungry, angry, physical defense, and I just felt like they looked timid. They looked maybe even a touch scared, unprepared. I don't know. It just looked like whatever they were supposed to do was not falling in line with what was expected. And they certainly didn't meet, I know, their own expectations, but as a fan, that was not my expectation. I mean, I was really that was probably one of the more disappointing parts of that game was just the defense has been the heart of our team for so long, and we've been waiting for an offense that can finally click to help the defense. And now it's like, okay, we have that. And now I feel like our defense has sort of gotten a little soft. It's almost like, okay, well, now we have the offense. We don't have to work as hard like we did before because we didn't have the offense. And I just, there's an imbalance. And, we thought that bringing in Brock and having the production that we're having offensively would balance us out and be this great team. Now we see flashes of it. We're certainly capable of it, but we cannot do that in the start of a game against Kansas City. That deficit is going to be hard to come back from. And so we're going to have to figure out how we get off, straight out of the gate and shut this offense down. I don't know if we have the answers.
There are a lot of people that think that the 49ers made some crazy second half adjustments. And I'm like, I just think the game flow was different. Again, I talked about an area that worried me, right? Where I said, hey, man, 49ers just come out at halftime, you get a score. From there, you're going to be good. You'll be down 2 scores or so. Let's go, right? And they come down, they get a field goal. And then on the next drive, it's like, nope, we're just pushing you guys around still. Play action pass, Laporta, who had a big game. We're going to run the ball well. And then, boom, they got stopped. But I didn't think it was that they did anything that the 49ers really, from a defensive standpoint, truly changed how the Lions had to play. Again, they moved down the field with ease, but they got stopped on 4th and 2. 49ers go down. They score a touchdown. Boom. And then the 49ers kick the ball off. Next play, the run play, 49ers force a fumble. Boom. They force a fumble. You get the ball. Then you score again. And I think that changed the dynamic in the game more so than something specific the 49ers were doing. You had another 4th down drop. You did have a mixed communication on one where I saw Emmanuel Acho break it down. I thought he did a terrific job. But I think this is going to be something to continue to watch. Now, it's not like we've gone into every game and be like, oh, man, Steve Wilkes and defense, it's an issue. They played very well in a lot of games. Matter of fact, I mean, heck, the Green Bay Packers game, for everything that the 49ers maybe didn't do well or the defense or whatever, like they threw for less than 200 yards. It wasn't any crazy, there were a couple of blown assignments. Guys slipped on the ground and whatnot. You had a pass interference called downfield. I don't know if that's on him, on the defensive coordinator. But in most games this year, I thought the 49ers played well. And I saw somebody say, oh, they don't look prepared. So somebody said in the chat, and I'm like, I thought most games they did. And other games, it looked like maybe the other coordinator was prepared. And then it's on the 49ers to make an adjustment. And so far, it hasn't looked like when whatever adjustment was needed to even squeak out a win, we did see that. So that'll be something to continue to monitor. But one thing that can't change is rumors. Chase Young being benched. Is that something that you foresee happening? That's what the rumor is going around right now. They're talking about lack of effort on some plays. There are high expectations for him coming here. I know you got him for just a late 3rd round pick, but just the talent, the ability, the physicality. Hey, this is a guy that he's going to turn it around. He actually came to the 49ers leading the team in sacks. When he got here, it was I think he had 5. No 49er had that much. Gammon in the chat says that is a false rumor, but okay, let's switch it then. Should he be benched? Should he be benched for lack of effort? maybe not having the impact you thought. There were a couple plays. Like I can go through and watch a couple plays where he wrecked shop, but you're not really getting that on a consistent basis. So, what are your thoughts right now on Chase Young and how he has performed?
He's hot and cold. I mean, there's definitely some blown plays. There's definitely some spots where he's done great. Unfortunately, guys, there's no way we're benching this guy. I just who's stepping in for that position. I don't foresee him getting benched. We have what we have at this point. We're heading into the Super Bowl, and this is who we have. And either they're going to find some way to coalesce and come together, but I feel like this Super Bowl is going to come down to our defensive line. And it may end up looking like it's the secondary because the D line's not putting the pressure. And this is going to be an interesting concept. So before the Lions game, one of the things that I kept asking people was this game, will Coach Campbell's aggressive play calling overcome Shanahan's conservative style, or will the defense make him pay for it? Well, we know the answer to that now, right? So I think this one comes down to, is all the resources we put into our defensive line going to be enough, or are we going to want to wish that we had invested a little bit more in the secondary as insurance in case it didn't work out? And I hope that's not the case, but that is something that I think has come to me now, that as a Niner fan, as one that's watched this whole season, that is the question for me, and that is the game. If the D-line can come together and make this thing happen, I know you're going to ask me later what my number is, but it's an 8. If they don't, it's going to be a long day for us and another missed opportunity, which I'm hopeful that it's not.
So let's get into that. Let's get into our numbers. And I was gonna ask where's your confidence meter at on a scale of 1 to 10 for the 49ers? And then I'll say mine and then I will elaborate on it with what the next topic is. But how are you feeling going into this game? This is a team I feel like kind of haunted the 49ers a little bit, like almost like the big brother, and you have to prove you could beat them. I think we go back to the Super Bowl and think about that game where you could have had it. But even outside of the Super Bowl, if you think of the year, Jimmy Garoppolo tore his ACL, that game against Kansas City, the score is 35-0 at halftime. Now, again, 49ers didn't have this team, but just them bullying the 49ers. And then you play them in the Super Bowl 2019, you lose that game. And then last year you played them at home and they hung 40-something points on you. Like you lost, right? That was Christian McCaffrey's first game. Wasn't a full-time starter yet, but just it's almost like the Chiefs have just, we got to play 49ers. We're going to push them around. How do we get over the hump of just saying like, all right, enough is enough. We're going to figure out a way to do whatever is needed to beat this team?
Yeah, I mean, it comes again down to the defensive line for me. I feel like this is our best opportunity. Kansas City has not looked the cleanest in a lot of the games this year. I think this is our best opportunity to get this the 6th ring. I mean, I think this is our best opportunity to beat them. It's going to come down to Mahomes and Kelsey. Can we contain those defensively and stop Pacheco on his runs? And that's all starts and ends with the defensive line. I feel like offensively, I think we can do some things. And again, my confidence now is an 8, and that's only because it's football. Any given football game, any given Sunday, you never know what the outcome's going to be. So for me, the 8 is the highest that you could actually have anyway, because a 10 I feel like is just almost unrealistic because things happen. But I'm very confident from the beginning. I've said this is our year. We are here. We've put ourselves in the situation. We have experienced what it feels like to lose a Super Bowl and lose a Super Bowl to this team. We know what this all feels like. We've all been there. And I think our veterans are going to fire up these other kids that have not been to this game yet. And I think we can come out with a W. But again, it's all going to be contingent upon what our defense does and how they decide to come together and make this thing happen.
We got an 8.5 right here on the scale of 1 to 10. I feel like that's extremely confident. We got an 8 right here, and he says his confidence level is at an 8, and he said the D is suspect. So I think he would be higher if the D wasn't bad. But how can you have the confidence of an 8 if you think that the defense isn't good and you're going up against the Kansas City Chiefs? So that's a question. Maybe hopefully you can answer in the chat. But my confidence level is at, and again, if you're saying, 1 is the absolute worst, or 0 is like, oh, you got no chance. 2 is like, I think we're gonna lose, but maybe we can win. 5 is like, it's kind of 50-50. I'm at about 6.5, and I'll tell you guys why. It's because of what I think the biggest hurdle is for the San Francisco 49ers. And the biggest hurdle is Patrick Mahomes. And now we know we can watch the Ravens game, and it's like, they only put up 17 points. But I'll tell you one thing about him that scares me a little bit. When Mahomes steps on the field, the expectation for him is we will win. No matter what, I will figure out a way. Like, we're going to win this game. Like, his expectation is to win. Where other people is like, man, I hope we win. I hope we do these things right. If we do these things right, we can come out on top. And I don't think there's any scenario where Mahomes walks into this game and thinks that there's any outcome other than them hoisting the Lombardi. And a guy with just that mindset, because he's been there, he's done it. This is his 4th Super Bowl appearance, right? Because he's won 2. He lost the one to Tampa. This is his 4th Super Bowl appearance. And even in the one that he lost, if you watch him, it's like, oh, my whole offensive line is injured. I don't care. I'm going to be out here trying to make plays still, right? I think it's just his mindset, man. It's the scariest thing to me. It's reminiscent of like Michael Jordan when they went on that run, and then he retired. Then he came back and they went on another run, right? It was like 3 straight championships. Then I'm going to retire. And then 3 straight championships. Like, it's reminiscent of that, where it's just like, we're going to win. Like, we're going to win. And I think the 49ers obviously have a legit chance, but my confidence meter is at a 6.5, just because Mahomes feel like no matter what he has to do to win, like, he'll do it. There's no reason why they should have won that game in 2019 against the Niners. He threw multiple interceptions. You're down double digits. You're down double digits in the 4th quarter. Matter of fact, one of your picks came in the 4th quarter. I'm like, it's over. 49ers celebrating in the end zone, all that. And he's just like, what do I got to do? All right, I'm going to do it. Or however he talks. Okay, I'm just going to go out there and we're going to throw the ball around. And, just make sure that I put him on my back.
Too much base, man.
Like, it's just, and I know people come, oh, man, like, you're hyping this guy up. Am I? Because every time he has stepped on the field, and especially playing against the 49ers, hell, I just referenced a game where they dropped 40 in the Niners. First drive, he threw an interception.
Yeah.
And his thoughts wasn't, oh, man, I threw a pick. Oh, man, okay, I shouldn't have did that. Do you know what his thoughts were? Did you see quarterbacks?
I did see quarterback.
His thoughts were, how dare they play their safeties that shallow against me?
Yep.
Oh, we going up top. We going to do it. And it's like, and then he does it. So it's just Mahomes. I just think he's different. He's in the ilk of Tom Brady, who their mindset is just kill, 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 kill. And if we're talking about my confidence meter being a 6.5, I think there are ways that the 49ers definitely can win this game for sure. But if there's a big hurdle, to me, it's Mahomes. Do you have anything in your head that you think is a bigger hurdle than even Patrick Mahomes?
No, I think that is the primary. I mean, he is in a league of his own. I watch quarterback. He is designed to win. He has all the elements of a legendary winner, right? So he's already set himself in a position to overcome things that Brady took his whole career to do, right? So I have a lot of respect for what he can do. My thing is, his receivers have had a lot of struggles this season. Sure, they've done well through the playoffs so far, but this is the biggest stage. So I kind of wonder if some of those things are going to start to rear its head again, and we can capitalize on that. I think Kyle Shanahan has shown that he can be more aggressive towards the end of the game now versus historically. So that also boosts my confidence. I want to ask you, though, how do you contain Kelsey? Do you feel like we put Mooney on him and he just stays with him, much like we played DK? Or how do you see the defense containing Kelsey? Because I think if we contain Kelsey and the dropsies comes back to the wide receiver units collectively, I think that could be uh, an interesting situation for the Chiefs.
Well, one, and we talk about the receivers, and there are guys that have dropped. Matter of fact, I saw Richie James drop a ball last game. He has been able to depend more on rookie Rashay Rice. Like he's been better, like especially like second half of the season. And I think early on it was trying to figure out like who is going to be that guy outside of Kelsey. Kelsey was dealing with injuries. I want to say it was like his ankle or his knee, but there was a span of games where Kelsey was dealing with things, and it's like, okay, who else is going to step up? Nobody else really stepped up. And then eventually Rice like really solidified himself as like, hey man, if there's something going on with Kelsey or whatever, or or you need something, go to me. They throw screens to him, they throw in breaking routes to him. I don't think he's like super twitched up or dynamic. So when you think about like 49ers DBs and how they match up against him, I think it's like, okay, like we don't mind this kind of matchup, but just in the sense of the consistency that he has brought to this team as of late and how much Mahomes has been able to lean on him, I think that has helped. All right, now you asked me a question about Kelsey, and we got a comment here, right here. It says, "Take Kelsey away from Mahomes, and pretty much, and you're fine." The toughest thing with that, I want to say it was my guy Jesse, post to Twitter, and it was Travis Kelsey. He had a big game last game, 11 catches, 11 targets, 11 catches. It was awesome. But it's like his it shows like it's like a thing that shows all his routes that he ran, and it's kind of like all over the place, right? And he's like, what kind of routes are these even? Like, what is this? And I was like, when you watch him, and we talked about this even prior to me seeing that, we talked about on Locked On 49ers. I don't know if Kelsey just, I'm just going to run this route, then the ball's going to be out. The toughest thing when trying to take him away, and you ask that, like, how do you take him away? Do you bracket him? Do you do this? Do you do that? A lot of his production comes off of these like broken plays where him and Kelsey or him and Mahomes are on the same page. So, a lot of like, let's say like your traditional receiver, it's quarterback drops back. Perfect example, Brock Purdy. Right, we know for the most part, Brock Purdy wants to play timing and rhythm and consistently, like 98% of the time, like that's how he wants to ideally play. I'm going to drop back. I know this guy's going to be there. I'm going to get the ball out of my hands. It's going to be on target. It's going to be accurate. And we have a big catch, run after catch opportunity. When you watch Mahomes and Kelsey, I'm going to drop back and I'm going to move around. And then Kelsey, you just find that soft spot in the defense. I'm going to throw it to you. You make a play, then you might have run after catch opportunity. And I feel like it's a lot of Kelsey just settle in the soft spot of the defense. Get to a spot, run to the soft spot. I'll find you. I'll hit you. I don't know how you really take that away. So I want to say this past game was maybe one of his better games this year for Travis Kelsey. I don't know if it's been consistent with him having 11 targets, 11 catches. So maybe you have to go back and watch some of these earlier games on how they, did they have multiple bodies on him? Did they reroute him? Did they chip him at the line of scrimmage, hit him before he gets out on route, then have another guy right there to slow him down? But I do know if you would just watch Travis Kelsey highlights, I'd imagine a lot of them are him running to an open space, settling down in the soft zone, catching the ball, and being that safety blanket over and over and over for Patrick Mahomes, where they just seem to be on the same page. But that's just kind of my thoughts on that. Somebody in the chat said, Mahomes he's not invincible. Like, yeah, no, he's human, kind of. I mean, again, like there hasn't been a season with him as a starter where he was not in, Purdy's on the same trajectory, but where he was not in the conference championship game or the Super Bowl. And we've gotten a large sample size of it. And really what it kind of took for even the Bengals to knock him off, And heck, you talk about conference championship games. He would have went to the Super Bowl in his first year starting, his second year. He would have went to the Super Bowl if not for D4 being offsides when Tom Brady threw an interception. So it is extremely, extremely difficult to overcome a team in these situations led by Mahomes. However you want to look at it, their defense is better this year. Pass catchers, maybe they don't have Tyreek Hill and all this, that, and the other. Pacheco, he can run the rock. He runs hard. Will he run for a bunch of yards on the Niners? I don't know. But whatever the common denominator I've seen is Mahomes at quarterback. And when he's at quarterback, it's just it's tough. It's just difficult. So, and all I've seen with the 49ers against Kansas City with Mahomes at quarterback is it's just difficult. Even when you feel like you have them down 20-10 in the fourth quarter and you got them, you got them. And then it's like, you don't got me. And then he
He
just
needs
goes and
13
just
seconds. That's all he needs is 13 seconds.
13. I mean, when we start talking about, he's not invincible. And it's like, okay, maybe he's not invincible. But I saw the Buffalo Bills. And now this is the tough thing for Josh Allen. Josh Allen plays like the game of his life, throws like 5 touchdown passes. Like most of them in the fourth quarter. These quarterbacks, they're going back and forth. And you think, boom, we got him. We done beat him. We knocked him out. And there's only 13 seconds left, one timeout. There's no way they take the lead. And all it took was 13 seconds. Like, so
Uh-huh.
when we say he's not invincible, it's just, you know, 13 seconds might not be enough for my wife, but 13 seconds is definitely enough for Patrick Mahomes. So I don't want to come on here like, oh, you're just praising this guy. I'm just saying it is just scary playing against what I've seen from him so far.
I agree. You cannot ever take the foot off the pedal when you're playing against Mahomes and the Chiefs. Absolutely
Yeah.
not.
And we'll see. This is yeah, Mr. Blue Badger says it's the overplay praise of him. If we're being honest, is it really overpraised? If all you've seen of him is conference championship, Super Bowl, 2 Super Bowls, breaking record, like what is? I don't know if he's at some point when you win a lot, and we've seen this with the Warriors. When you win a lot, you become kind of the villain. We see that with Steph Curry, right? Where like Steph Curry, it was just like everybody loves this kid. Like he flies around, he's doing all these things. And then you start to have outside people that feel like, they're doing this because it's him, right? It's just it's Curry and nah, man, the Warriors they're not in this, and they become kind of an unlikable team. And I think that's what's going on with Kansas City, where Mahomes, however you want to view him, crybaby, all that. Somebody said I'm on his payroll. I don't know. I just watch football. And every time I watch football and I watch Patrick Mahomes, for the most part, especially in these moments, it's like I watched him down 24-0. It's like wasn't enough. Like it just, I don't know. I think you can be a 49er fan, a diehard 49er fan, and acknowledge that somebody is doing something special. And that's all. I'm just acknowledging what I feel like is obvious, but maybe it's not obvious to everybody. I don't know.
I like what student of the game says here, and that's like the biggest thing for me is it's been a collective team effort. It's not the same people all the time putting in the big plays. It's sometimes the people that aren't really our biggest names, like Gibson. He had a big play, right? Juwan Jennings with the big Moss catch that he had. It was Juice on the right on the line at the edge, catching that ball, falling out of bounds. It's not always the Kittle and the Debo and the Ayuks and the Brock Purdy's. It's a collective team effort, and that's honestly what gives me that 8. It's okay, cover this person, cover that person. Brock is not. It's not above him to throw it to somebody else, And I think that's the thing. If our defense can come on board and play as a unit, and just like they did in the second half of this last game, then I have this is the best situation we could be in heading into the Super Bowl, from what we've had in years past, even.
All right, this is gonna be fun, man. I'll get some Chiefs people on here. I'll try to even get some Raiders people on here to talk about kind of what they've seen and how they've beat them, because the Raiders, I want to say the Raiders beat them this year.
They did.
Like how'd they do that? Like what was that? What do they think they did different than what the 49ers have historically done against Patrick Mahomes?
Well, and we didn't even talk about Ominahu. He's got a torn ACL. He's out. He's not playing.
I know, and I put in the description that we'd be talking about injuries. Maybe we'll talk about injuries next Wednesday when we find more about who's kind of banged up. But Ominahu, that is a big blow. Matter of fact, I was watching the game. I saw him get a sack. I'm like, man, 49ers sure could use Ominahu right now between the sack, his versatility, playing inside, outside. 49ers struggling a little bit against the run. Like Ominahu would be somebody who can play kind of a big end, help seal their edges a little bit more. 49ers have struggled there. And then he goes down. and he tore his ACL. So that is a huge blow to a Chiefs defense that has been playing well as of late. That's
By the
tough.
way, don't worry about CMC. He's going to be fine. I think it was just a stinger.
What about in his leg though? They were rubbing out something in his leg.
There hasn't been anything. I think the last update from Kyle Shanahan just said that his they called it a shoulder for him, and then something's going on with George Kittle's toe, and Ambry Thomas something with the ankle. And honestly, they didn't really say anything about McCaffrey. He just mentioned Kittle's toe and Ambry's ankle. So I think McCaffrey's already good to go, but otherwise it's probably just soft tissue, here and there stuff. And maybe that's part of the reason why Debo didn't block so well. He's still got that bad bone bruise in his shoulder. So is he a little bit, whether that's, mental, because I think that also happened when in the game against Green Bay, when he went out later, when you heard him talking about the shoulder, he said, I thought maybe I had another fracture in my shoulder. So it kind of messed with him mentally. And so that's honestly what they wanted to rule out before they let him come back. So I wonder if there's a little bit of that playing in his head moving forward.
All right. All right, y'all. We're gonna let Coach Dezi out of here. Coach Dezi, of course, definitely appreciate you coming on live right now. I think what I'll do is I'll let you go. We've been on for an hour, but I'll put the link in the chat because I know some people want to come on live. So I'll let them get that out. But I definitely want to appreciate you coming on the show as usual. And next Wednesday, you ready?
And it's been a full season, and hopefully we do go next Wednesday. But just in case we don't, I just want to thank all of you guys for all the love you give me on X and on here, and just all the support. And always, Eric, I'm so grateful for you, and having met you in Atlanta last year, and just being able to be out here talking about injuries, educating people about their bodies and how things work. And I so appreciate all of it. So, all right, faithful, we got one more week, and we're gonna be at the bowl in Vegas.
Let's go. All right, Coach Dezi. Appreciate you. All right, we got Miss Tia Ingram on live. Miss Tia, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing good, feeling blessed.
Yeah, me too. That's the same.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say I'm worried about the defense. I know, the offense got it together somehow, but it wasn't because of Kyle. I know everybody wants to say Kyle's a genius. Kyle play calling was horrible last week. It was just I didn't think it was good. It seemed like whatever he got going in his mind, he just want Brock to come out here and start throwing. That's not what we used to doing. We usually run the ball to set up the play action passes, and he's doing the total opposite. I thought we should have ran, them more, Chris McCaffrey more, or put in Jordan Mason. He's a little bit more of a up the tackle kind of runner, so I think he needs to kind of switch him out a little bit, because I think everybody's so used to CMC, they know how to kind of stop CMC on certain plays unless he bounces out to the outside and then kind of get their run behind Trent Williams. But I think he needs to kind of mix it up. But I think as far as our defense, I'm really worried about this run defense. I just don't know what's going on, why we can't tackle. They used to be our staple back in the Harbaugh days. Everybody knew if you're running the ball, you're not getting no yards. It's just not going to happen. Now, our corners, that used to be the issue. But the run defense, they used to be our staple. Like, nobody can run the ball. And it just seemed like the last 6-7 weeks, people just say, hey, you want to run the ball? Come on, we'll let you get it. You want 5 yards? Hey, come on, you can get it. And I just don't know how they're going to be able to stop it between now and the Super Bowl. I don't know how they're going to be able to fix it. I mean, I know the Chiefs don't have their number 2, because I don't even really know who their number 2 is behind Pacheco. But I've
It's
seen him.
usually Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Right. And he didn't play Sunday.
He did play.
Was it a little bit?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. And I only know that
Yeah.
because on Underdog Fantasy promo code Crocky,
Right.
I
He gave you
took
some
the
points.
over on his 7 yards, and I think he only had like 2 yards or something like that.
Oh, yeah. But I've seen Pacheco run. He runs like somebody said something about him before the game, and he's coming to take everybody's head off. So they might want to be ready to put their chin straps on, because he do run like they really be coming at him in a personal way. So
Yeah, right
I
here we got
think
Pete. Pete says, "Yeah, Pacheco doesn't scare me that much." I don't know if
okay.
Pacheco like scared, but when you talk about how he runs almost like a horse coming at you.
Yes, he
Um,
run full speed,
yeah,
nonstop, and you better if you not moving, we both gonna go. So y'all be ready. I mean, I saw how he was running them dudes over in Buffalo in the cold, and
yeah,
it was
he runs
cold.
hard. He runs
So
hard. It's like a Adrian Peterson. He's not Adrian Peterson, but
no,
he runs with that
Varner.
type of like aggression, but just
Yes,
maybe not that. I don't think he doesn't have the same punch, right? Like just remember like Marshawn Lynch, how Marshawn Lynch ran
right, right, right,
on the
right.
Niners. It would just be so hard, so strong, and run through guys. Pacheco doesn't quite run through guys like that. Like he's not that same impactful runner, but he definitely runs really hard. And if you don't bring everything, like he'll like all of a sudden he'll run through you. So it is
Yes,
interesting how he runs because he's not like the heaviest of guys, but he
and
runs
not
hard, and he
fast,
runs
but
hard
it's just
every single play. Like
every single play.
there's never
Yeah,
like a tiptoeing, and there's never a play where it's like, oh yeah, I got him now. It's
he
like,
got to make 2 or 3 moves. He just get
yeah,
up and
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Which I
He
think
runs
the
hard.
Niners would probably actually like him on the team because he don't do all the extra stuff. He just
Yeah,
get up there and go. But I am worried about the defense. And Ambry Thomas being hurt, I think everybody was kind of like, okay, you know. But they put in Logan Ryan, so it's kind of like, oh hell. But we we can't win for lose. But I do think the defense needs to step up. I'm not just gonna blame Chase Young because I saw some efforts where Nick Bosa wasn't hustling. I saw some efforts where Fred wasn't hustling. I saw when Gibbs and it was 6 people around Gibbs and everybody was looking like, well, you got him. No, you can take him, and they was just passing him off and he scored a touchdown. So I think it's a lot of effort on everybody. I think they were just out there so long that they was kind of gassed. And if it wasn't for Detroit mistakes, I don't think we would have came back and won that game because they look very gassed on defense because they was out there for most of the game. So I don't know how Wilkes can get them. At this point, it's more of an effort.
yeah. Well,
They
we
can.
gonna see. We gonna see if they get that effort together. T, I appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna get to the next caller.
All right, thank you.
All right, here we go. We got 49 problems in the chat. 49 problems. Good morning. How you doing?
Crocky, I'm doing great, man. How you doing, bro?
Oh man, I'm feeling good, man. Feeling good. What
Man,
confidence meter? What's your confidence meter on the scale of 0 to 10 for this game against Kansas City?
okay, let's say the last Super Bowl it was at a 7. This one it might be at a 5,
Mm.
but the context is different. Like I feel like if we can't beat this Chiefs team, then we don't deserve to win a Super Bowl because they're not the Chiefs team of the past. They've had to pay their quarterback $1 billion and kind of formulate their roster around him. And they did it well. They got a young defense and they got Spagnuolo, who's known for winning Super Bowls in these type of situations. So good for them. But for us, like if we can't beat these Chiefs, we're never going to win a Super Bowl, period, because the teams are only getting better. And but I will say this. Headed into these playoffs, I didn't want to hear it. If the Niners don't get to the Super Bowl and win, I'm done, blah, blah, blah. Now that we've gotten to the Super Bowl the way that we have, I'm willing to just let everything fall where it will. I've seen Niner fans doing rituals. I was one of them just to get us into the Super Bowl and the Lions game and all that. Stop watching for superstition, everything you can imagine. And we made it. So I feel like we got over the hump in a lot of ways. And now it's like, okay, like who's really the team of destiny? Is it the Niners? We beat the Lions. We beat the Packers. They had all that momentum. The Chiefs, they feel entitled. Like they're here. They're supposed to be here. Everyone was against them. They're probably like, rah, rah, rah. We're going to prove everybody wrong. But at the end of the day, we've suffered all the heartbreak and the tough losses. We have the roster that has resonated and turned over, and we have all the people that have lost championship games and Super Bowls. So, like, I'm ready for the result to be what the result will be. I will not be heartbroken as I thought I would be before, but I really have a good feeling about this one. So excuse my number as a 5, because I don't deal well with disappointment nowadays. I don't want to say I was a 9 and we lose. But I'm buying my daughter the Niner chains with the big emblem, like everything. I work with a Lions fan, a real good friend of mine. My boss was trying to hate, and I was just staying humble. I'm the most humble Niner fan you'll ever meet. I don't have nothing bad to say about any team or any player. But God, I hope this is the year for us, man. To your last caller, though, the run game is a major issue, but it's been an issue all year long. It ain't going to be the thing that makes or breaks us at this time. We've dealt with the double backfield of Gibbs and Montgomery. We had to deal with, what was his name? Aaron Hall? No, not Aaron Hall. I apologize. Aaron
Aaron
Jones
Jones.
with the Packers. And now it's like Pacheco, Hilaire, okay, whatever. It's about Kelsey and Mahomes at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's what it's gonna come down to, man. I appreciate you calling in. We're gonna get to the next caller, but hopefully between now and the Super Bowl, we can get your confidence meter up just a little bit more.
Quest for 6.
Quest for 6. Let's go.
Later,
All right.
guys.
All right. He said Aaron Hall from guy. Aaron Hall, the singer, baby. Aaron Hall, the singer. Real quick, I'm pulling up this tweet. Let's see, where's it at? And this happened. I posted it. Right here we go. So when people think that I'm talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's like, oh, all of a sudden, no, this is a team. So I have this tweet right here. You guys can see it. This was from January 18th. It might have been right after the wild card round or whatnot. But I said, I know this is a quote unquote down season for KC, but until the Chiefs are eliminated from the postseason, they are still the scariest team to me. So I've had thoughts all along that for whatever reason, and they could just be living in my head. You know, what do people say? Living rent free. They might be living rent free in my head, but I just watched Kansas City Chiefs and it's just, I don't like them. Like, I don't like playing against them. I don't like what I've seen from the 49ers every time we played Kansas City with Mahomes at quarterback. I don't like any of it. And even when I feel like, 49ers might be at the peak of their powers, they just do something. And this year, we don't even have the defense that we've had of years past, but we have a better offense. So what's if our defense isn't as good, and even when our defense was good, Mahomes was putting up 40 points and 30 points and 35 points in the half. Right? When our defense was good, he was doing that. And now our defense isn't that good, but the offense is better. And even then, with the offense being better, I feel like our offense is very, at least in the postseason so far, has been kind of a little bit up and down, right? Like you've had lulls. And you scored 7 points in the first half against the Packers. You scored 7 points in the first half against the Detroit Lions. If our offense is what we kind of have to hang our hat on, do you feel confident that our offense is all of a sudden going to have an explosive first half in the plays? Hopefully. But I don't know how I feel about that happening against the Chiefs, who actually, this is the best defense they've had. So something to continue to monitor. But yeah, this isn't, when I'm talking about the Chiefs right now, it's not because all of a sudden they're in the Super Bowl and now always should be worried. I was just worried about them when the 49ers didn't even have to play against them yet. And we didn't even know if they would be here. And I'm still like, oh, Kansas City. They're just up here, man. They're up here. I'm scared of Michael Myers too, and I feel the same type of way. All right, Keith in the chat, from the chat. Good morning, Chief. How you doing?
What's up, man?
Keith,
How are you?
Chief Keith. So there you go.
What's up, man?
Oh, what's up, man? I'm feeling good, man. How you feeling this morning? How you doing? What's your thoughts on this game?
I actually feel more optimistic than I did in 2019. And I felt optimistic in 2019 because I feel like if it gets to a shootout, we have the offense that can do it. The thing to your point is I am worried because the defense isn't as strong as what it was. But I do think we can muster up a game plan, and we do have a lot of talent. And I feel like that matchup with Detroit was a bad matchup, and I think their offensive line with Sewell and those guys presented problems that I don't think Kansas City's offensive line presents.
And I think that's my big thing, right? Like not knowing much about Kansas City's offensive line, and we'll get some people into that maybe know more about it. I do know all about their center that was drafted same class as Aaron Banks, but that's my question, right? Like that's the biggest question. is Kansas City's offensive line as good as Green Bay's offensive line? Is Kansas City's offensive line as good as the Detroit Lions offensive line? Like those are two good O
Right.
lines, and
I
I feel
think
like
their offensive line is supposed to be really good, but I think it's built more for pass protection. Whereas the Detroit line get out, Sewell, they get out on the edges, and then they running people over. I seen Penei Sewell run over Ward and get down on our linebackers a lot, and I don't know if they run that type of scheme.
yeah, see that's and that could be kind of problematic because you got to get to the quarterback, and for whatever reason, I know everybody's making it about this year. To me, it's been the last 2 years. I don't think that the 49ers pass rush has been good. Last 2 years. So I know a lot of people making it a Steve Wilkes thing. I think this has been going back to even last year. You know, it was Nick Bosa, and the difference was Nick Bosa was great last year, where Nick Bosa this year has been really good. But he was so great last year, it overshadowed a defensive line that I didn't think was playing very well.
Well, let
So
me ask you this:
yeah,
because
yeah.
I liked our front seven a little bit more with like a Minahu, and I feel like the depth we had. I feel like we
Minahu,
got
Ebicam.
yeah, Ebicom and those guys, even on the back end with Jimmy Ward and Emmanuel Mosley before he tore his ACL. Um, I didn't know if just going to put all that money into Hargrave. I don't know if it's paid the dividends versus keeping some of our depth. I don't know your thoughts on that or not.
I think it has, but I think they just need certain guys to kind of step up. And Kinlaw stepped up last game, so you need him to be good again. I think Drake Jackson not taking that next step. I think that kind of hurt them. I think losing Cleveland Farrell, you know, he was a big part of
Yeah, I
49ers
agree.
depth. You know, and kind of what they were able to do. I think losing Cleveland Farrell, I think that kind of hurt the
I
49ers.
agree.
So when we talk about depth, I don't even know if it's so much about money, but it's really more about damn. Like they also traded for Randy Gregory. You know, so
Right.
they I feel like they traded for Chase Young. They've tried everything possible to be able to throw as much resources at a D line while your quarterback's on a rookie contract, and for whatever reason, you're not quite getting the results. Now, last year, uh, maybe D'Amico Ryans would tell you, well, just we just don't quite have the guys. We have guys that can work well, but this year it's like, oh well, you traded for Randy Gregory, you traded for Chase Young, you went and got Hargraves. Like, man, they should be cooking, and maybe that's when you could put some things on Wilkes. But I think overall, it's just the 49ers D line has been living more off of the reputation as opposed to like how good they really are. And I think that's been going on for kind of a couple of years now.
I agree. What do you what is your thought?
On what part?
Your confidence meter.
Um, I'd say I'm at about 6.5. I really like Fortnite. I think typically they're a well coached team. I'd say that if there's anything that put doubt in my mind, it not even the Ravens game. Like I wasn't worried about that. It's like, bro, you threw 3 interceptions in the first half and you're down 4 at halftime. Then you throw another intercept. Like, okay, like how many times Fortnite is going to throw 4 interceptions in the game? So I wouldn't even worry so much about that game. But when you watch the last 2 games, there were times where I know I come on here and I talk to you guys about, like the what if and all this stuff, but I am a very like optimistic person. It takes a lot to knock me off of my high horse when it comes to the 49ers. I come on here, I try to be like humble and all that stuff and talk real football. But the last 2 games kind of scared me in the sense of, dang, how I did gain a different respect for them in the sense of being able to come back. But I thought like, okay, he came out like you scared the hell out of me in that Packers game, but you came back down 7. I said came back, but you know what I mean. You took the lead late, right? You were able to rally and score and win that game. Cool. All right, let's go.
Right.
And I just
I
said, well,
think
now they're gonna go and they're gonna throttle the Lions. And to be down 24-7, I'm like, dang, maybe I overestimated how good this team is. Now they now that was legit come back and win. Like awesome. Okay, let's go. But it did kind of rattle like my confidence a little bit because I had the utmost confidence in this team heading into the postseason, and now to go back to back games where it like you need a lot of things to kind of go your way, um, especially against teams that I thought like you kind of just handle. It rattled my confidence a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
What rattled my confidence is I don't need Kyle to go back to Green Bay NFC Championship, Kyle, but I still need him to realize he has a second year quarterback. And to me, he came out with a game plan like he has Mahomes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I would like to establish the run and calm Brock down. For whatever reason, in the last couple of games, and maybe the rain had a lot to do with the Green Bay game, I feel like Brock came out a little bit more like, I don't know if the word tense is right, or like he was pressing. That makes sense.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I feel like calm the young man down with a run game, quick play action, shallow passes or screens, before we get into just dropping them back in shotgun. Like, I worry about this coaching matchup, um, more than the defense because Andy Reid is what 3-0 versus us, versus Kyle.
no, he's at least with the 49ers.
I think he's 3-0.
Is it just three?
Yeah, we
So
don't
you
play
had the
them.
you had the you had the Jimmy ACL game. Yeah, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0.
Yeah, we don't play them a lot at all. Every 2 or 3 years, probably. Um, so yeah, 3-0. So and the last game specifically, they scored 44 points. They had our defense off balance the whole game. So the coaching matchup is something I usually consider an advantage.
Yeah.
In this game, I do not. So that's what takes me down to a 6. If I thought Kyle would outcoach Andy, I'd be around.
Uh-oh. Think you got out of here. All right, Keith, we're gonna get you. You had disconnected, but I do agree on the coaching front. I've had. I mean, I think that's been one of my biggest um factors with this team. Like, man, they're so well coached, and this year has been, not even the whole year. Again, I had the highest confidence in this team heading into the postseason. It really was the two postseason games that I felt like great job finding a way to win for sure. Both of those games. But it's just like, do we have a lot of weaknesses? And I never felt that. I never felt that before. In the chat, we had a question here from Pete. He says, how good is Chief Center? Man, Hargrave needs to show up. Creed Humphrey he's been in the all pro center. So young guy, again, I talked about him being from the same class as Aaron Banks. So what is he on year 3? But he has been really good. He has been really good. Keith Murphy in the chat, he says, how do you compare and contrast this matchup versus 2019? Ooh, okay, this is a great one. This is a great question. 49ers were loaded on defense in 2019. You were loaded on defense. I would say the defense was better. And still, even then, you gotta hold on. You gotta hold on, hold on tight, right? But the defense was better. And I feel like that was clear. This year, the offense is better. I don't know by how much, but I think the biggest difference is definitely Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo. So if you look at points per game from 2019, 49ers averaged roughly 30 points a game. So it's not like they were any kind of a bad offense. I think you are more dangerous now, right? You have veteran. The offense is more dangerous with the weapons, right? You have veteran Deebo Samuel. You have veteran Brandon Ayuk coming out all pro year. You have Christian McCaffrey, best running back in the league. You have Trent Williams. And back then, I think we had Joe Staley, but Trent Williams even better, right? So you have better players all over the offense. And you have Brock Purdy, who has been more of a playmaker than Jimmy ever was. So I think if you kind of combine, I would be interested to see the DVOA, the offense and defense and team DVOA from 2019 compared to this 2023 team and what that would look like. But I don't know if it would be it might favor 2019 just because the defense was far and away better and the offense was not much worse. That's just a guess. All right. That was a great question. That was a great question. Now, as far as on the other side, with the Chiefs defense down the stretch that year have been playing well, and people like they talked about that, like 2019. The Chiefs defense was not good for the entire year, but down the stretch, like the last like month of football, their defense started playing well. And then we know what Mahomes, and he had Tyreek Hill, and you had a slightly younger Travis Kelce, their running back Williams. I want to say Williams. I would say their running back now Pacheco is probably a little bit better. But I would say that if you just took where those teams were heading into the Super Bowl, both teams, I would say the Chiefs probably feel more like even when you kind of combine offense, defense, etc. Well, the 49ers might be slightly worse. Now, again, that was a terrific team. But the 49ers might be slightly worse. And that's because at least then you knew more of, like, especially heading into the game, defense dominant. Like, you knew that. Defense dominant, and the offense still was capable of putting up 30 points a game. This year, offense more dominant, but defense, we don't know we don't know what defense is gonna show up. All right. For the last guys coming on, I think I'm gonna bring all of you guys on at the same time, so we're not on for a whole nother hour. Appreciate everybody that's tuned in so far. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're gonna have a full panel discussion, and I think I'm gonna let the guys answer this question as well. All right. So first up, we got Mr. Blue Magic coming on. All right, and we got Mr. Gammon coming on. We got Damon, aka
I'm up here
Shunda,
with the booty.
and we got MV Purdy. We're throwing in another guy. We got MV Purdy in here. So let me see if I can make this. All right, we could do it like that right there. I will start with Shunda Boy because I feel like I love his insight and some things like that. I'll be curious to see or know his thoughts on how do you compare and contrast the matchup between these teams, 2019, where they were then, where they are now, how you view both of them, and maybe how you view this matchup. You can start it off, and then you go ahead and throw the questions to the other guys, see how they feel, and I'm going to go ahead and put my mic down and just take a listen. All right, go ahead.
Appreciate you, Croc. First of all, Super Bowl. Here we go. We gotta have some energy for this show because we came on earlier right when we were going into the postseason. Everybody's kind of like, but what could go wrong? But what could go? Can we just appreciate for a second? We're back again. We're going again. All right. Let's just get hype a little bit for the fact that we're in a bowl again. So that's first and foremost. So the biggest difference between this team and that team is on the defensive line. That's the biggest difference. Our offensive line that year was not great. We had one of the best left tackles in the league, and everybody else was just a guy. Same thing this year. We had one of the best running backs in the league, although obviously I think Christian McCaffrey is better than what we had that year. But our running attack was 1 or 2 or 3 in the league that year. The biggest difference is not only do we get gutted up the middle because DeForest Buckner is significantly better against the run than any other defensive tackle that we've had since we lost him, but our edges are getting blown up. They're using wide receivers to blow up Chase Young over and over. And it wasn't just last week. The Packers showed the blueprint how to capture an edge on the 49ers. That wide 9, they put a big slot receiver in there and they blow up Chase Young. They did it 5-6 times in the Packers game, and then they did it again last week. And it's just I don't know what to do about it. I mean, Cleveland Farrell, that doesn't happen to him. That's one of the, I think people are really underestimating the loss of Cleveland Farrell in the run game setting an edge. I'm worried about the edge in this one.
I guess I'll go. I think the biggest difference really between these two matchups is I think number one, Brock Purdy. I think number 2, Juwan Jennings. I take Juwan Jennings against their slot corner any day of the week. And it's crazy to me that he's played amazing in these playoffs. Juwan Jennings has, not just Brock Purdy, but Juwan Jennings, and he's still the most overlooked and underappreciated player on this offense. But damn, does that guy just not get it done? The other thing too that I'm looking at, my confidence level, by the way, Croc, I can't tell if you can tell by the intensity of my voice, but it's a goddamn 9, and I'm going to explain why. All right, in the last 20 games of the season, we're acting like this Chiefs offense is this offensive juggernaut that they've always been. How many games out of the last 20 games, that's including the playoffs, have the Chiefs scored 30 or more points?
The 2, right?
3 out of 20 games. All right, they're not this. They're not this. It's not like we're gonna have to just weather this offensive onslaught. The big thing too is when you look at the numbers, the Chiefs do their best when they control the time of possession, the time of the clock. Okay, when you look at their wins and you look at their losses, if they don't control the time of possession, they're not going to do well. Yes, their defense is doing well, but that's because also too their defense isn't having to be on the field that long. And one thing that the 49ers do really well is bleed the clock. Like, come on, like, what are we, whenever people in the chat or anybody else calls us casuals, I mean, this is why, right? Like, the other thing too that I'm kind of looking at is I'm looking at all their passing and their rushing. Pacheco, how many 100-yard games has Pacheco had in the last 20 games? But we're acting like they got the Baltimore Ravens rushing offense. You know what I mean? Like they don't have the speed to cook us to the outside like Green Bay and Detroit did. Oh, and by the way, guess what 2 teams beat Kansas City? I'll wait again. Detroit and Green Bay. So they might have a blueprint on Chase Young, and I don't know if you can abuse that for 60 plays, but we got a blueprint there. I'll pass it on to the next person.
All right, I'm gonna go next. Everybody can hear me? I like Gammon's points. One thing I pushed back on, the last time we played Patrick Mahomes, they dropped 45 on our head. And yeah, that was crazy. But in comparison to last year or 2019 and then this matchup, like Eric Crocker said, the defense, that was like the main thing that kept us in that game, or really like having Patrick Mahomes bother. But now it's our offense is going to have to compete, and now the Chiefs defense is going to be the standing point for the Chiefs. And right now, my confidence, I say like an 8.5. I'm not scared of the Chiefs as of right now, because how we made it through these playoffs, like nobody expected that. We was favored by at least a touchdown in these last 2 games, and we came out and it was looking bad for us. But Brock Purdy made it through. That's why I got the name MVP Purdy right now, because he's doing what he needs to do his second year in the league. So it's like, yeah, I'm not really scared of anything right now. Brock Purdy, he gonna get us through. If we get a lead in this game, I don't think there's no way that Patrick Mahomes could figure out to make it through with those receivers. He's going to have to put the ball in Kelsey's hands, and I feel like we're going to double him most of the game. And if that's the case, he has to throw to Rashee Rice and MVS. Like, I don't really think they have a chance to come back. But I think the main thing is us getting a lead in this game and just keeping it running the rock with Christian McCaffrey. And, yeah, I think that's all.
All right. So, first of all, Brooklyn, we're in the building. What's popping? Croc, what up? Now, Croc, I can't argue with your take on the difference between this matchup in 2019 and now. I think you were spot on. You said everything that I was gonna say. So let's talk about that. So we Gammon, shout out to the bro, brought up some accurate points. Now, here's the flip side, because I am absolutely concerned. Number one, with the point that you made, Croc, is we shouldn't have had to come back from Green Bay. Green Bay, period. I give Detroit was very underrated. And I said in the beginning of the season that I was legitimately concerned about us matching up against Detroit because fights make styles. We could have easily been out of the postseason. Could have easily. So even when you look at what we've done all year, What defense have we faced? What legitimate defense have we faced this year? The one thing about this Chiefs defense this year is they are dogs. This Chief defense is not going to mess up these gimme interceptions. If Brock has one of these games that he's had in the past where he's just a little uneasy for a little patch because the kid is a very very good quarterback. He's a very good quarterback. He's not elite, but he is exactly what we need him to be for us, and that is a blessing for us. But this Chiefs defense will capitalize on the mistakes that other teams have not been able to capitalize against us. Here's another thing.
Hold on, real quick, Mr. Blue Magic. I'll kind of throw some stats out there because I'm looking while you're talking. As far as total defense goes, all right, so you just talk about yards per game given up. The 49ers are eighth, the Kansas City Chiefs second. So they gave up the second least amount of yards per game. Kansas City Chiefs pass defense, fourth in the league, and the 49ers are they're like 13th or something like that. All right, but fourth. So just from that standpoint, yards per game from the defense given up on defense, the Chiefs second, passing yards per game, fourth. Now, where the 49ers are better, 49ers are third against the run, where Kansas City Chiefs are much lower. I would say 17, 18. I'm not going to count every team. And I think the scary thing is for something that was a strength of the 49ers, at least in yards per game throughout the year, it has completely flipped in the playoffs, which has made it to where it's like, do I know exactly who the 49ers are? So when we just talking about just defense, right? I think with the Chiefs, even in the postseason, they still have been like that same defense against the pass as a whole. I thought they did a really good job. It was a good game, but as far as yardage goes against the Buffalo Bills, like Chiefs, they're good. You watch them against the Baltimore Ravens. It's like, damn, their defense is good. So I do, you're talking about their defense and how well it's played, as opposed to the 49ers. And it is weird how the 49ers, which was a strength throughout this year. I don't think so from a DVOA standpoint, but as far as yardage goes per game, it really has been more of an issue. So I think that has kind of shaken up some of my confidence in the defense. But go ahead, continue with your point.
Yeah, and that was another point I was going to go to. Also, I don't trust this defense, and it's not Wilkes. It's the players. It's the players. When we signed Hargrave, I said we spent too much money. When you look at Hargrave on the Eagles, when you put him with the rest of the players that was around him, it made it easier for him. So it made him look a lot better. Chase Young, I said that was a big mistake because who gives up that caliber, that mystique of a player for so little? Now, what I will say is our best bet to win this Super Bowl is gonna fall on everybody outside on the Chiefs offense, everybody outside of Rice, Mahomes, Kelsey, and Pacheco. Those guys are gonna do their thing. Rice is that kid is amazing. It's no discredit to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill he's just an anomaly. But Rasheed Rice, his production, especially late, he's their true number one. The rest of those boys, I don't trust them. I trust them to pull some Palmers and drop some very important passes, but we won't lose because of Brock. If we lose, it will be because of Kyle.
Why do you think? How do you think Green Bay beat the Chiefs in Week 13, Mr. Blue Magic?
The Chiefs, once again,
How did Green Bay beat the Chiefs? Because you're saying we kind of overlooked or we kind of undervalued the Lions, right? But I'd say everybody undervalued and overlooked Green Bay and all those weapons on offense that they have, right? And I would say to the point that we have even better weapons. Now, when we say that the Chiefs have some dogs on defense, I just brought up Juwan Jennings. I mean, there's Ayuk. You look at the way that I love the way that Pacheco runs, but damn it, I love the way that CMC runs. Kittle is not playing. Like, you look at some of the things that he said the last time that we lost the Chiefs. He said in the Super Bowl, he said, we'll be back and we'll be back with a vengeance. And everything that man has said, he has spoken that shit into existence. Pardon my language. Like, we got
But it also took a couple years. It also took a couple years to for that to become existing as well.
We're here for a reason. The Packers were in the playoffs for a reason. I wasn't surprised when I saw the Lions in the NFC Championship. And damn it, we're in the Super Bowl for a reason. Like, I've seen way too much heart, soul, grit, just nastiness. Sometimes games don't come down to just playing 4 perfect quarters. Sometimes it comes down to rhythm changes, snatching that rhythm back, and then also to playing great in moments that you need to play great in, right? Like, think about a basketball game. Sometimes things aren't the best, but it's about making those key stops at key moments at key times. And this team has shown me they have the ability to do that in the biggest of times against, I would say this, the Green Bay Packers and the Lions offenses were so great at not just going vertically, but going east to west. They had so much speed. And I think that speed, east to west, was a problem for Chase Young. I think that's a problem for damn near anybody, as you can see that they were torching and lining up a lot of teams in the league. And the Packers, wide receivers are stacked 1 through 5. They really, really are. So the Packers don't have a good wide receivers.
I didn't say they didn't have good, but I mean,
they're a whole lot better than Kansas City.
A lot. Like, that's the thing. I'll put Ward on Rice. I'll put Warner on Kelsey. I'll put a hat. I'll put Greenlaw on Pacheco. Right? Like, they're like, if we're gonna start doing this helmet to helmet thing, like I said, I'll take Juwan Jennings all damn day. I mean, I will too.
But even to your point, hold on 1 second, damn it. Even to your point with Juwan, how often do we use him? So it's one thing that he's amazing. It's one thing that he's third in Juwan. But once again, this is what I said. It goes back to Kyle. Look at what Juice did. Look at what Juice did this last game. But how often are these players used to their full capacities? That's why I said it's going to be on Kyle.
In moments. We need him in moments, not all 4 quarters. That would be the key takeaway from what I'm saying. It's not.
Yeah.
And these teams we're acting like we should have just been blowing out like the Lions and the Packers were just scrubs, and they beat the Chiefs. And then we turned around and then we beat them. Both those teams beat the Chiefs, and we beat both of them. Like, we got it.
Here's my thing.
Make spikes thing.
Well, I think if you just go like play, like I feel, and I'm very confident that the 49ers are the better team. I am very confident. Again, the one thing that shook confidence a little bit is one of the things that we were able to say, hey, this is really good all year, run defense. It got a little suspect. And now I'm like, okay, who is this defense, right? But if you're just saying like confidence level and like which team is better, I would say, oh man, 49ers. But last year I also felt like the Eagles were the better team than the Chiefs. And all of a sudden, this dude, Mahomes, flipped a switch and it's like, God damn, I done seen this before. And he's playing on one leg and started breaking off big runs and making throws. And all of a sudden, the Chiefs are hoisting another Lombardi. So I started this, and we can go player for player, whatever. 49ers are the better team.
Yes, but they were in 2019 too. They were in 2019
and they were in 2019 too. I felt like then, like, 49ers are the better team. And the thing that offsets thing, which right here it says biggest hurdle, and this is going back to when Dezi was on here. The only thing that I was really concerned with, like, I talked about, like, oh yeah, Pacheco, he runs hard, but whatever, right? Oh, Rashad Rice, I even said it. I was like, I don't think he really threatens 49ers cornerbacks. Like, I like that matchup. Kelsey, I talked about how it's like, oh, it's a little weird with Kelsey because a lot of his stuff comes off of just finding soft spots, being on the same page with Mahomes on some extended plays and things like that, then he'll make plays. But like, if we're just saying like, who will we feel the better team? I think it's 49ers.
There's another matchup that really bothers. Sorry.
The issue for me is Mahomes is a different, like in these moments, anytime we've seen him in these moments, he has been the difference maker. When we saw him in these moments in 2019, like he was the difference maker no matter what. When we watched last
Even
year
in
in
these
the
playoffs,
Super
even
Bowl,
in these playoffs, even to
like
talk about losing to Detroit and Green Bay, this team in these playoffs have been a different team, and the playoffs are a different animal. So we can talk about how bad they looked then, but even when you go back to 19, the Chiefs played. They came back from 10 points in every game to win the Super Bowl. So
like
it's not
it's
like
like it's almost so that's the tough thing because it's like, all right, and I'm telling somebody he's not invincible. What do you do to stop? That's the question, really.
Okay.
What do you
Patrick
do?
Mahomes.
And Dan Mr. Bloom, excuse me, Chandler Boy, you can answer this. What do you do in these pressure packed moments of the postseason to corral him or contain Mahomes for an entire 60 minutes? Because so far in all these situations, we've seen like that's what it takes. And we've seen it done one time so far in the Super Bowl. So I'll ask you, Daniel, how do you contain them for a full 60 minutes? How did the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do it? And do the 49ers have the ability to do it? Like, that's really the biggest question. It don't matter. All these other players, we can talk about that, whatever. 49ers are awesome. But it's going to come down to containing him for an entire 60 minutes. How do you do it, Shonda Boy?
So I don't know necessarily. So I think you have to contain him and not let him just totally ruin the game. And I think that we've done that. I think there's plenty of teams that have contained him, and then he makes a play here, there, makes a play late, and that ends up being the difference in the game. But I think how you beat him is you have to have a quarterback that can also make plays. Before, when we played them, our quarterback down the stretch played terrible and was not able to make the plays that were there to be made to counteract the great play that Patrick Mahomes was playing down the stretch. Our quarterback failed to match that level. I think this quarterback has the ability to match that level of play down the stretch. So I think that's one critical difference between that matchup and this matchup.
My only pushback.
Mhm.
All right. If we go back and we're going to do this, hold on.
Jimmy was as
Hold
much
on.
as trash as Jimmy was balling.
No, not in the last 4 drives. He was terrible. The
Yeah,
last 4 drives, when we had the lead and we're trying to close the game out, he was awful.
Yeah, crunch time. Jimmy is not somebody you want to
I just,
defend.
what's crazy because
All right, here, hold on. Here we go. So
NFL
we're talking
Network just
about
played
like
that game last night. I
we're,
just
we're,
watched.
we're talking about offense. We're talking about Brock Purdy, and here and again, I don't want to act like this guy is invincible. All right, and he didn't even have an amazing game, but he had an amazing game when he needed. Jalen Hurts last year in the Super Bowl threw for over 300 yards, had a touchdown. Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl had 70 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. They put up 35 points and they lost.
Because they didn't
They
corral
defense
Patrick
couldn't,
Mahomes.
yeah, they couldn't generate
That's what
any pressure either because of the field. So
what
that's
we're
what I
saying is
think
you
the
have to
main
do
thing.
both.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay,
go
so
ahead.
what's gonna make what's now, and we know that last year that Eagles defense was way better than ours this year. So that's the thing. So if
I don't know that.
I would say that,
that
but
Eagles
Their,
defense
in that
wasn't better than
game,
our defense right now,
their secondary was suspect. Their linebackers got exposed. They had a hell of a pass rush that was really good. Their back seven got absolutely exposed by Kansas City the same way it would have been exposed by our offense.
correct.
Their defense had an amazing pass rush. If you negate their edge rush, that defense was very average. There were 3 different games that year where their edge rush was negated and they got torched. Their back end is terrible.
I don't think they got torched. That's not the word because they only gave up 180 yards passing. So I wouldn't say torched is the word, but definitely Kansas City.
In the Super Bowl last year,
Yeah, Mahomes only had
it was only
180.
185 yards.
Mahomes, yeah, 100,
Okay.
182 passing yards.
Yeah, but I think
Okay.
like Thunderboy was
Thinking
saying, the
back, it
key to
seemed
the
like more.
defense was the D line, and in that game,
Yeah.
they couldn't do anything. So even though throughout the season their numbers was way better than our 2019 numbers, they couldn't really do anything in the Super Bowl because of the field. So it's like that's the main thing that we had to focus on this game. Moving Patrick Mahomes off his spot, he won't really,
Yes.
and covering Travis Kelsey. And I think, like he said, Brock Purdy can go blow for blow in certain scenarios with Patrick Mahomes. As long as we put points on the board and pressure Mahomes throughout the game, we don't really have to contain him every time, because I feel like that's impossible to contain him every play. He's going to get his, but as long as we get ours and keep pressuring him, it's no problem. I think that's going to be an easy
That's right.
win.
And that's
I'm
but that's
worried
my
about.
thing. What makes us think that even the way our line has been playing,
Yeah.
what is there to make us believe that this defense that we have will
Yes.
get that type of pressure on Patrick Mahomes? And
Because-
and Jalen Hurts had that fumble was arguably the game. And
Yep.
and Jalen was playing amazing before then. But we
So it's like you
also
can't.
understand,
So basically, it's like you can't make. Can you not make a mistake?
like
And
you can't.
yeah, Brock
And
can
that's
play
my
a
thing.
mistake-free
Brock-
game, because one thing we've seen from Brock is he
But we
will
also
give
see-
you opportunities to. We've seen that now in the postseason games. We've seen that in other big games. Like there will be opportunities there. Now, do you take advantage of the opportunities or not? Right? Like that's on you, and hopefully the Chiefs don't. But do you believe that Brock can play a perfect game? Because essentially that's what we're
Yes.
saying that needs to happen.
Yes, I definitely do. I mean, we seen him play a perfect game. He played a
Literally.
perfect game this season. The other thing too is that I'm looking at this again. Let's Mr. Blue Magic, name off the weapons that Mahomes is throwing to. Again, I brought up this stat. Mahomes' offense, because we're acting like he fell from Mount Olympus. We're acting like he fell from Mount Olympus. This man is like, you know, I mean, he's going to be the next Marvel movie as the next supervillain that the Avengers are going to have to like dethrone. They've only scored 30 points in 3 games out of 20. So name me their offensive weapons. And
Gammon, I already said outside of Kelsey, Rice, Pacheco, and Patty, everything else is suspect, like extremely suspect.
There's one area that we have been exposed, that our defense gets exposed, and this team will expose it. And if we don't shore it up, we're going to lose, because the slot fade. MVS is the perfect wide receiver to run the slot fade. And if we don't do something to shore that up, if we get into a 2nd and 4, they're going to hit us in chunk plays and explosive slot fades over the top. They did it. They just did it. That same play that MVS made the catch on in this last game, that same play, our defense struggles against. They're going to run the same play, and that is an element where they can use a guy who hasn't been very good all year long to expose a weakness in our scheme. It doesn't just have to be those guys, because the mind of Andy Reid is going to figure out a way to use his guys and put them in the best position. And if I'm just casual over here watching the game and seeing this thing play out game after game, I guarantee you he sees it too.
Now, if we want to be negative Nancy's, right? Like if we want to find something, have the Chicken Little response where the sky is falling, this is what I would say. Okay, the 49ers have been more of a second half team than they have been a first half team. And the thing is that the Kansas City Chiefs defense for the second half has been noticeably way different and way more stingent as far as the second half, right? Like that's if we want to make the Chicken Little response. Feliciano, he knows exactly what he's supposed to be doing as far as what his roles and responsibilities are on the offensive line. But that dude has been getting pancaked. And then if we're expecting him to go up against a guy like Chris Jones is going to just eat him alive. And that's where something could be similar right there in the 2019 Super Bowl. But let's not act like Mahomes, right, has been throwing for over 300 yards every single game. In fact, he's been more of a game manager this season than any others. I'm saying, like, if this is the season to get him, this is it. If Styles make fights, we don't want, if they had the offensive style that they had in 2019, that's not the style that this 49ers defense wants. But if they're going to have to play shallow underneath throws, that's exactly what this defense wants. So that's why I'm a 9 out of 10, because if we're going to be playing time of possession, bleeding the clock, keeping the score low, I got 49ers 23-17. Let's go. We're going to be talking about this for 2 weeks. God bless you, Croc. I think I'm going to lose my mind if I watch and listen to all the negative Nancy's, but We're here for a reason. We got a squad. We got
But
dogs. Go Niners.
damn.
Go for the
Listen, yo, Jared, I love Jared. That's my son.
I love it. He's great. So hey, let's take this back into a positive direction because I think he's right. We have kind of gone a little bit negative. We are in the Super Bowl. Our boys are rolling. There's one big critical thing we need to point out. The Kansas City Chiefs are the worst offense in the second half down the stretch of the football season. They've scored 0 points in multiple games in the second half over and over again. The 49ers have the best second half team in the NFL all season, and especially down the stretch where we have had multiple games where we have blanked teams in the second half. So if the Kansas City Chiefs do not have a 14-point lead going into halftime, they will not win this game. This is not the same Niners team that could not close in 2019. This team finds a way to close because, as Crocky said, Mahomes comes in expecting to win, and that's awesome. We have an entire team full of Trent Williams and George Kittle and Warner and Ayuk who all expect to win. They have one guy, maybe two. We have a whole squad. We have to think there's not a single position group outside of quarterback where Kansas City Chiefs are just better. And we are clearly better in multiple positions. And all the analysis and crap aside, we have better players than they do. And we have a quarterback who to this point has shown he's not going to fall flat in the big moment down the stretch when we need a play. When we just need one drive to put the game away, this quarterback can get it done. The last quarterback could not. For all the good things he did, that was the biggest difference in those games. And I think that's why in this game, as long as we don't get too far behind early and come out like we did in the last, if we come out like we did in the last two games and we let this team get up 10 points, 14 points on us early, it's not going to be the same thing as the last two.
But that was literally the point that we made.
Yeah. No, you're right there. Yeah.
And that's why I said this is not going to fall on Brock. This is going to fall on Kyle. This is going to fall on what Kyle does. I don't even care about the defense. I'm not even worried about the defense. My thing is this: if Kyle, because regardless of the defense, if Kyle comes in with the type of schemes that he's drawn up these last two games in the first half, there's not going to be anything the defense can do at that point. So that's why I said it's not on Brock. This is Kyle. You have to out-coach Andy Reid.
Yeah.
All right.
I agree with that.
We're going to stop there. I know my guy, Chris, wanted to come on. Chris, we're going to have to save it for another episode, maybe tomorrow. I got laundry to do. I got to cook breakfast. I got to eat breakfast. I worked out this morning. All I had was a shake, and I need to eat breakfast. So, all right. So we've been on here an hour longer than typical, but I thought it was a good conversation.
You the man, Croc.
Back and forth. I appreciate you guys for coming on, though. Thank you.
One last thing, Croc.
All right.
Hey, and I got here a little late, so I didn't get a chance to. I'm a little busy, but for all of us, we go on everybody else's channels and we blow them super chats up. My boy Croc is out here putting in the work, getting shout outs on national media, all that. Hey, let's start getting Croc's super chats jumping.
Yes.
Hey, I'm not saying I'll turn it down. I appreciate it, but I love talking to y'all and I enjoy the engagement. So
Mr. Blue Magic, it was a pleasure to finally get to do one of these one-on-ones with you. I love some of the stuff you come up with, man. It's really fun. And you too, MV Party.
I do the same thing. Every time I hear you and I see you up here, I'll catch it live and then I'll go back and watch the replay. And Gam, you already know how we do, Playboy. Young fella down here, it was a pleasure to meet you. I mean, I know we kind of, stole most of it, but
we did. MV Party, sign us out, man.
All right. Hey, appreciate y'all for coming on. All right. Shout out to all the listeners and everybody that tuned in today. Chris, we're gonna get you on tomorrow because I know Chris is gonna have a lot to say. And Chris, he comes with, it's not even like an opinion. These are like the facts and things. And I think Gammon did a good job of that as well, breaking down specific numbers as to why 49ers, who are favored, why they should be favored. All right. Excuse me. We're going to talk about all that and more. Make sure you guys hit the like button on the way out. Make sure you subscribe if you aren't subscribed right now. Underdog Fantasy, use promo code Crocky. I ain't gonna lie, I kind of been cheating on Underdog a little bit with Prize Picks, and I need to call Prize Picks, but don't tell Underdog Fantasy that. Appreciate everybody. Underdog Fantasy, promo code Crocky. Download the app or go to underdogfantasy.com. And I think I'm gonna do a $50 giveaway on Underdog. I appreciate y'all. Talk to you tomorrow. Peace.